So I guess the risk would be that your face time goes down, and ultimately there's a long tail of decreased conversions. But there's kind of an upside too, because if you don't have to physically go in, and I mean, you're more efficient on your Salesforce side as well, right?
You can be. And so what a lot of companies are realizing, in fact, I have a client that grew 533% during COVID, grew 533%, because the way that they go to market was aligned with the way the customers now wanted to transact.
What did that look like?
So what it looked like is, instead of having reps that flew around the country and might go to a certain geography and call on 4 or 5 hospitals, now they sit in Zoom, have a really beautiful demonstration. Marketing's worked on it. The brand is tight. There's video. It's got all the multimedia elements, but it's 7 minutes. Really clear, compelling, following the story brand, 7-step framework, using that, getting it done really quickly, and letting the customer decide, does this solve my problem or not? Doing that 10, 15 times a day versus 3 to 5 times, burdened by thousands of dollars in travel and expenses. Still, there's expense to that. You have to have a little bit of sales enablement and automation tools, but we're talking hundreds of dollars, not thousands of dollars. And their pipeline has exploded with opportunity.
Yeah, so back to the Eisenhower quote, they had a plan, the market was disrupted, customer sentiment changed, but because they had a contingency, or they were willing to sit down and retool and say, okay, we still have a process, but it's gonna the approach is gonna be different as a result of COVID and kind of the way that our customers shifted how they want to buy.
They built an expense budget for the year, tens of thousands of dollars a month to be dedicated to travel and expense. Well, we're not doing that anymore. How do we repurpose that to keep sales growing? So they invested in, everyone got new video and microphone technology, made sure that everyone had the adequate internet speed. So really focused on upload speed to really host videos, gave them enablement software, invested in marketing to redo the 7-minute demo deck. And that was it. So we spent maybe 1 month's worth of travel and expense to re-kit the sales team, and our pipeline exploded.
So what's the principle for a business owner out there? Okay, I hear this story, but I'm not in healthcare. I'm thinking about our sales team. Maybe there's a handful of us. Things have been disrupted. What can I take away from that that's applicable to my business out here in Middle America somewhere?
Audit some of your best customers. Think about whether you've got 6 months of data, a year of data. How have they wanted to buy from you? How has it shifted? Are you seeing that they're preferring a little bit more tech-enabled?
So, like, pick up the phone and call your customers?
Ask your reps that are frontline, or circumvent them altogether if you feel comfortable doing it. Asking them, how do you want to do business with us? How has it changed? How has technology, how has changes in the marketplace affected you? How else can we serve you? You'd be surprised at what you're going to learn. Then the planning piece is about mapping your process to that. So what a lot of companies realize from doing this work is that the way in which they've segmented their customers or segmented the market doesn't serve the business. They've segmented it by geography or some other arbitrary definitive line. And really the way you should segment your customers is by how they want to do business with you. If there's a real meaningful difference in the way that someone in this industry wants to do business than someone in another industry, that's how you should segment.
So like in the hospital space, you might have some hospitals that say, we still prefer you come in person. And so there's a segment of in-person hospitals, and then you've got some that are going, no, we're good with Zoom meetings and demonstrations over Zoom.
Bingo.
Like you would define segments that way versus like geography.
And the truth is that people that are wired to sell through Zoom are a little bit different than those that are highly relational. So you might find yourself with reps that have great relationships with their customer. They like to play golf. They've known them for 10, 15 years. They're great at rapport. But now they don't get the benefit to use those skills. So you may have to think about the way your team needs to be wired to be successful in a more virtual selling environment. I don't think it's going to ever go away. There might be more, you might see more return to normal and customers inviting you back to the office. But I think by and large, a lot of companies are deciding to absolve the physical plant, not have a building, let everyone work remote. And if there's no office to go to, that type of selling is not really going to work.
I think it's a big experiment, right? Because ultimately what we know is companies are going to get results. They have to. If the top line and bottom line aren't growing, then no one really cares about work from home, not work from home at the executive level if it doesn't impact results. But as soon as it impacts results, a company's going to shift and adapt to follow what's going to get us the best results. And I think going forward, you're right. There's this constant experiment that's going to be going of what's the right balance and blend of technology, and then also face-to-face interactions. Like right here, we're face-to-face in the studio, and I can tell you, like compared to when we do a remote and somebody Skypes in, the conversations are way more dynamic. The energy in the room, face-to-face, like there's just something different. I don't even know how to explain it. But the guys and I, after every time we do a remote, it's like, yeah, that would have been great if they were in studio. There was something that was just a half a second delay, or the body language is, you can't quite sense it even though you have video. And so I think it's an interesting time when we're trying to, as a country, really the whole world is running this big experiment of how much primal need do we all have to be face-to-face versus how much can we leverage technology?
And that seems to be a question that I'm answering a lot for sales leaders and executives. They say the same thing. We close better when we can get in front of the customer. Our reps just do a better job when we're face-to-face. That may be true, but what if your customer isn't comfortable with you coming to their office? In the same way, I'm sure you've had guests that have said, you know what, Daniel, I'm just not going to travel to Nashville. It'd be great, but for me right now, we're going to do this remote. So what's your answer? What's your plan?
Yep.
And how do you rethink your sales process to account for the fact that there's no more travel time? Your meetings have gone from an hour and 90 minutes down to 15 and 20 minutes. How do you sell in a world where that's the reality?